The lighthouse keeper's cottage glowed soft gold against December twilight. Inside, Ethan Whitmore stood 3 feet from Olivia Bennet, his hand trembling slightly as he reached toward her face. She wore the ivory silk dress he'd chosen. Simple. Elegant. Nothing like the elaborate gown Victoria had demanded 5 years ago. Olivia's dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and her hazel eyes held something that made his chest tighten in a way he didn't understand. "You're crying," he whispered, voice rough. She hadn't noticed. One tear traced down her cheek, catching the firelight. His thumb brushed it away. Warm skin. Soft. Real. "I'm sorry," she breathed. "I don't know why." But he knew. Because this was supposed to be pretend. A 6-month arrangement. A business transaction to save his grandfather's legacy and pay for her mother's treatment. This wasn't supposed to feel like the most honest moment of his life. Olivia. Her name caught in his throat. She looked up at him, and everything he'd built to protect himself crumbled. Tomorrow, they would stand before a judge. Sign papers. Begin the performance. But tonight, in this quiet cottage with winter pressing against the windows, something shifted. Something neither of them had agreed to. Something that would make the next 6 months unbearable. Because you can't pretend forever. And some vows, once spoken, change everything. But how did they get here? Let me take you back. But before we do, if you believe real love sees the person first, stay with me, hit that like button and subscribe to Love and Light Stories. Now, let's continue. The next morning, fog rolled thick across the Maine coastline, wrapping around the Whitmore lighthouse and like something alive. Ethan stood at his office window on the 3rd floor of the main building, watching gray waves crash against black rocks 100 feet below. 5 years managing this place. 10 years total in the family business. And now, 2 months to lose it all. The lawyer's letter sat on his mahogany desk. Clean white paper. Precise black text. Words that might as well have been a death sentence. Clause 17, subsection 4, to maintain sole proprietorship of the Whitmore collection, the heir must be lawfully married for a minimum of 6 consecutive months prior to his 43rd birthday. His birthday was 8 weeks away. The office door opened without knocking. Margaret Chen, the family attorney, entered carrying another folder. She was 60, sharp as broken glass, and had known him since he was 8 years old. "The board met this morning," she said without preamble. Ethan didn't turn from the window. "And Randall Properties made another offer. $22 million for all 3 properties." His jaw tightened. "The collection is worth 40. Not if you can't fulfill the inheritance terms." Margaret set the folder on his desk. "They know your situation. They're betting you won't find someone willing to marry you in 8 weeks. He finally turned. "Someone willing to marry the man who got left at the altar? Who's been photographed at exactly 0 social events in 5 years? Can't imagine why that would be difficult." Margaret's expression softened slightly. "Ethan. I'm aware of the irony, Margaret." He moved to his desk, hands bracing against the edge. "My grandfather put this clause in place because he believed in family. In partnership. In building something that mattered with someone who mattered. He wanted you to have what he had with your grandmother. He wanted me to not be alone." The words came out harder than intended. "He died thinking I would find that. Instead, I proved Victoria right. I'm better at managing properties than people." Silence filled the room, broken only by distant waves and wind. Margaret picked up the folder she'd brought. "There is one option. It's not ideal, but it's legal." "I'm listening." "A marriage of convenience. Someone you trust. Someone discreet. You fulfill the terms, maintain control of the collection, and after 6 months you file for a quiet dissolution." Ethan stared at her. "You're suggesting I hire a wife?" "I'm suggesting you find someone whose goals align with yours for a specific period. Someone who needs what you can offer, and who can offer you what you need. A mutually beneficial arrangement. A transaction. A solution." He looked back at the window. The lighthouse beam had started its slow rotation, cutting through fog. His grandfather had restored that lighthouse with his own hands. Had taught Ethan how to maintain it. Had walked these grounds every morning until the day he died, talking about legacy and love in the same breath, like they were inseparable. I have 8 weeks to find someone willing to lie to everyone we know, pretend to be in love with me, and then disappear quietly after 6 months. He laughed once, sharp and bitter. This is absurd. This is your only option if you want to keep the collection. Margaret was right. She was always right. That was the problem. That evening, the Palmer-Hutchins wedding reception filled the Whitmore Inn's grand ballroom with soft jazz and champagne-drunk laughter. 200 guests celebrating a love story that had started, according to the maid of honor's speech, with a chance encounter at a coffee shop. Ethan stood in the service hallway outside the ballroom, reviewing final invoices with his event manager. He could see everything through the doorway. White roses and candlelight. The bride's lace dress catching light as she danced. The groom's hand steady on her waist, his expression content in a way that made something in Ethan's chest ache. He'd stopped believing in that expression 5 years ago. Everything's perfect, his event manager said. The photographer got some beautiful shots during the ceremony. Which photographer did they book? Olivia Bennett. Freelance. She's been here 4 times this season. Always professional. Never intrusive. Ethan nodded absently, signing the invoice. Then a commotion near the ballroom entrance caught his attention. The bride stood frozen near the doorway to the terrace, one hand pressed to her mouth. Her maid of honor gripped her shoulders, speaking urgently. Other bridesmaids clustered around them, expressions shifting from confusion to concern. "Excuse me." Ethan moved toward the group. As he approached, he caught fragments of conversation. "Can't believe she would come, your own mother, you don't have to talk to her." The bride's face had gone pale. Her hands trembled despite the maid of honor's grip. Then Ethan saw her. A woman in an expensive burgundy dress standing on the terrace, visible through the glass doors. She looked like an older version of the bride. Same bone structure. Same sharp eyes. "I thought you said she wasn't invited," someone whispered. "She wasn't." The bride's voice cracked. "She hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. Not since I refused to marry the man she chose." The maid of honor's expression hardened. "I'll handle this." "No," the bride straightened slightly, but her voice wavered. "I'll talk to her. I just need a minute." She moved toward the terrace doors, shoulders tight with tension. Ethan looked around the ballroom. Most guests hadn't noticed yet. The groom stood near the bar with groomsmen, laughing at something, unaware his bride was quietly falling apart 30 feet away. Then someone else moved. A woman in a simple black dress emerged from near the dessert table. She carried a professional camera, but she'd lowered it, focused entirely on the bride. She reached the terrace doors first, stepping outside just as the bride's mother began speaking in a voice sharp enough to carry. Ethan couldn't hear the words, but he saw the bride flinch. The woman in black stepped between them. Not aggressively. Just present. A quiet barrier. She spoke to the mother calmly, gesturing toward a side garden path away from the windows. The mother's expression shifted to outrage, but the photographer didn't back down. She maintained eye contact, said something else, and gestured again to the path. Finally, after a tense moment, the mother turned and walked toward the garden. The photographer followed, leaving the bride standing alone on the terrace. The bride pressed both hands to her face. Her shoulders shook. The photographer returned within seconds, wrapped an arm around the bride's shoulders, and guided her away from the windows to a quiet corner of the terrace. Ethan watched through the glass as she spoke softly, one hand rubbing the bride's back in slow circles. No dramatic gestures. No visible panic. Just steady, quiet comfort. 3 minutes later, the bride walked back into the ballroom. Composed. Shoulders back. She found her groom, whispered something in his ear, and he immediately wrapped her in his arms. The photographer slipped back to her position near the dessert table, raised her camera, and captured the moment like nothing had happened. Ethan's event manager appeared at his elbow. Crisis averted, apparently. "Who is that?" Ethan asked, still watching the woman in black. "The photographer. Olivia Bennett. I told you about her. You said she was professional." "She is. I've never seen her get involved in family drama before," but the manager shrugged. "Maybe she's just kind." Ethan studied Olivia Bennett more carefully. She was maybe mid-30s, slender build, with dark hair pulled back in a simple braid. Nothing remarkable about her appearance. She moved through the reception like she was trying not to be noticed, capturing moments without interrupting them. But there was something in the way she held herself. Quiet dignity. Careful observation. She helped a stumbling groomsman find water. Moved a forgotten purse from a chair before someone sat on it. Smiled reassuringly at a flower girl who was crying about a torn dress. Small acts. Unnoticed by almost everyone. Ethan noticed. An hour later, as guests started departing, Ethan found himself watching Olivia pack her camera equipment near the terrace doors. She worked efficiently, hands steady and practiced. Ms. Bennett. She turned, surprise flickering across her face. Mr. Whitmore. Is everything all right? I wanted to thank you for what you did earlier. With Mrs. Palmer and her mother. Understanding crossed her features. Oh. That wasn't anything. It prevented a scene at a 200-person wedding. That's not nothing. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. The bride deserved to enjoy her day. That's all. Still. It was kind. It was decent. She finished latching her camera case. Anyone would have done the same. But they hadn't. He had watched 50 people stand nearby, and only this woman had acted. Do you work many weddings here? He asked. When I can. This is a beautiful venue. The light is perfect for photography, and your events team is always professional. She smiled slightly. Makes my job easier. You're freelance? Yes. I work all over New England, but I'm based in Portland. Ethan pulled out his card. Business instinct, nothing more. If you're ever interested in contracted work, let me know. We could always use a reliable photographer for our events. She took the card, surprise evident. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. He nodded and moved away, already thinking about the board meeting tomorrow and Margaret's absurd suggestion about hiring a wife. He didn't give Olivia Bennett another thought. Not until 3 days later, when everything changed. 3 days later, Ethan sat in his lighthouse cottage going through family financial records. The cottage had been his grandfather's favorite place, a small stone building attached to the restored lighthouse at the edge of the property. 2 rooms. Stone fireplace. Windows facing the ocean. Ethan had moved here after Victoria left. Too many memories in the main estate house. His phone rang. Margaret's name appeared on the screen. The board voted, she said without greeting. If you're not engaged within 2 weeks, they're accepting the Randall offer. His hand tightened on the phone. 2 weeks? That wasn't part of the original terms. They're pressuring you. Randall Properties is offering them consulting positions after the sale. They want you to fail. Ethan stood, pacing to the window. Waves crashed against rocks in steady rhythm. The lighthouse beam swept past, illuminating fog. I need more time. You don't have it. Find someone, Ethan. Anyone you trust. She hung up. He stared at his phone, mind racing through possibilities. Friends were out of the question. None of them could keep a secret, and most had sided with Victoria after the breakup anyway. Family was worse. Employees would create complications that could destroy working relationships. He needed someone outside his circle. Someone discreet. Someone who needed money enough to take the risk. Someone kind enough that the performance might be believable. His eyes caught on a business card sitting on his desk. Simple black text. Olivia Bennett Photography. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. This was insane. He'd spoken to her once. She'd helped a bride and packed her camera equipment. That was all he knew about her. But she'd been calm under pressure. Professional. And there had been something in the way she moved through that reception, noticing things others missed, helping without expecting recognition. She was decent, she'd said. As if that were common. It wasn't. Ethan pulled up her photography website on his laptop. Clean design. Portfolio showcasing weddings, portraits, events. An About page with minimal information, Portland-based photographer, 10 years experience, available for bookings. No social media links. No personal details. Just work. Professional. Private. Discreet. He clicked on her contact form, then stopped. What was he thinking? He couldn't just email a stranger and propose a fake marriage. That was how people ended up with restraining orders. But 2 weeks. If he didn't find someone in 2 weeks, he lost everything his grandfather built. Ethan closed the laptop and picked up his phone instead. He dialed the number on her card, heart pounding in a way he hadn't experienced since Victoria had smiled at him across a charity gala 5 years ago, right before everything fell apart. The phone rang twice. "This is Olivia." Her voice was warm, professional. He could hear street noise in the background. "Ms. the Bennett, this is Ethan Whitmore. From the Whitmore Inn." "Oh. Hello. Is everything all right?" "Yes. I apologize for calling unexpectedly. Do you have time to meet? I have a business proposition I'd like to discuss." Another pause, longer this time. "A business proposition? It's complicated. I'd prefer to explain in person, if you're available. I'm in Portland right now. I could drive up tomorrow afternoon." "That would work. 2 o'clock at the Lighthouse Cottage." "The Lighthouse Cottage," she repeated, clearly puzzled. "All right. I'll be there. Thank you." He hung up before he could second-guess himself. Then he spent the next 24 hours trying to figure out how to ask a near stranger to marry him without sounding completely unhinged. The next afternoon, Olivia's car pulled up the gravel drive to the Lighthouse Cottage at exactly 2 o'clock. Ethan watched from the window as she stepped out, wearing jeans and a navy sweater, her camera bag slung over one shoulder. She looked around at the cottage and lighthouse, expression shifting to quiet appreciation. The view was stunning from here. Ocean on 3 sides, rocky coastline stretching north and south, the lighthouse rising against gray sky. Ethan opened the door before she could knock. "Ms. Bennett. Thank you for coming. Mr. Whitmore." She smiled slightly. "You have excellent timing. I just finished editing from yesterday's wedding." He gestured her inside. The cottage was warm, fire crackling in the stone fireplace. Simple furniture. Books on shelves. Nothing elaborate. Olivia looked around, and something in her expression softened. "This is lovely. It was my grandfather's. He restored the lighthouse and built this cottage himself. He had good taste." She set her camera bag near the door. "So, what's this business proposition?" Ethan had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times. Every version sounded insane. He gestured to the chairs near the fireplace. "Please, sit." She settled into one of the leather chairs, hands folded in her lap, expression open but cautious. Ethan remained standing. If he sat, he might lose his nerve. "What I'm about to ask is unconventional," he began. "And I'll understand completely if you say no. But I need you to hear me out before you decide." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "All right. My grandfather left specific terms in his will regarding the Whitmore collection. To maintain sole ownership, I need to be married for 6 months before my 43rd birthday." He paused. "My birthday is in 8 weeks." Understanding flickered across her face. "Oh. The family board is pressuring me to sell if I can't fulfill the terms. They've given me 2 weeks to become engaged or they're accepting an outside offer." Olivia's expression shifted to sympathy. "I'm sorry. That's awful. I'm asking you to marry me." Silence dropped like a stone. She stared at him, clearly trying to determine if he was joking. "I'm sorry. A legal marriage. 6 months. After that, we file for quiet dissolution. No one gets hurt, and I keep the collection." He moved to his desk, picked up a folder. "In exchange, I'll pay you $200,000. 75,000 up front, the rest after the 6 months are complete." Olivia stood slowly. "Mr. Whitmore, I barely know you." "I know. This is absurd. But I need someone I can trust to be discreet, someone who needs money enough to consider it, and someone kind enough that people will believe I married her." He met her eyes. "You helped that bride 3 days ago when no one else would. You treated my staff with respect. You noticed things others miss. That doesn't mean I'm qualified to pretend to be your wife. You're more qualified than anyone else I could ask." She shook her head, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry. This is too strange. I should go. Your mother has stage 3 cancer." Olivia froze, hand on the doorknob. Ethan kept his voice gentle. I'm not trying to manipulate you. But I looked into your background before calling. Your mother's treatment isn't covered by insurance. You've been working 7 days a week trying to cover costs. $75,000 would pay for everything she needs. Olivia turned slowly, and the look on her face made something in his chest tighten. Exhaustion. Fear. Desperate hope fighting with pride. How did you know about my mother? I have resources. I'm not using this against you. I'm offering a solution that helps us both. By asking me to lie to everyone. To pretend to be in love with you. Yes. That's not a solution. That's a fraud. It's a legal contract between two consenting adults. He set the folder on the table between them. Everything would be documented. Signed. Witnessed by my attorney. You'd be protected. Olivia stared at the folder like it might bite her. I'm not asking you to decide right now, Ethan continued quietly. Take the contract. Read it. Think about what $75,000 would mean for your mother. If you decide it's not worth it, I understand. But if you decide it as he paused, we could help each other. She didn't move for a long moment. Then, slowly, she crossed to the table and picked up the folder. I need time. You have 24 hours. After that, I need to find someone else. Olivia looked at him, really looked, and he saw something shift in her expression. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding that he was as desperate as she was. This is insane, she said quietly. I know. If I agree, we'd have to make people believe it. Your family. Your friends. Everyone. Yes. I'm not an actress, Mr. Whitmore. Neither am I. But we're both good at our jobs. This would just be another job. Marriage isn't a job. This one would be. She clutched the folder to her chest, eyes bright with something that looked like tears she wouldn't let fall. 24 hours, she repeated. 24 hours. She left without another word. Ethan watched her car disappear down the drive, then sank into the chair she'd vacated. It was still warm. He'd just asked a stranger to marry him in exchange for money. His grandfather would be horrified. But his grandfather had also been a practical man who did what needed to be done to protect what mattered. Ethan just hoped Olivia Bennet was practical too. 22 hours later, Ethan's phone rang. Olivia's number. I'll do it. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the cost in those 3 words. Relief flooded through him. Thank you. I have conditions. Name them. Separate bedrooms. No physical relationship beyond what's necessary for appearances. And when this is over, you help me find steady photography work. Not charity. Real contracts. Agreed. Silence stretched between them. My mother can't know, Olivia said quietly. She'd never forgive me if she found out I did this for money. We tell her we met at the inn and fell in love quickly. Can you sell that? Can you? I'm a photographer. I'm good at seeing what people want to see. Then we'll make them see it. Another pause. When do we start? Tomorrow. My attorney needs to draw up the final contract. After you sign, we announce the engagement. Small ceremony within 2 weeks, then 6 months of marriage. Just like that. Just like that. He heard her take a shaky breath. Okay. I'll be there tomorrow at 10. Olivia. Yes? I know what you're sacrificing to do this. Your integrity. Your privacy. Maybe your sense of self. I won't forget that. You're paying me $200,000. I think that covers it. But her voice cracked on the last word, and they both knew it didn't. Not even close. The next morning, Olivia signed the contract in Margaret's office in Portland. Ethan sat across from her, watching her hand shake slightly as she wrote her name in careful script. Margaret witnessed, notarized, and filed the documents without comment. If she had opinions about Ethan hiring a wife, she kept them to herself. You're now legally engaged to be married, Margaret said, handing them each a copy. I've scheduled the civil ceremony for 2 weeks from today. Small guest list. Immediate family and essential witnesses only. Olivia folded her copy carefully. What about rings? Ethan had forgotten about rings. Margaret pulled a small velvet box from her desk drawer. Your grandmother's engagement ring. Your grandfather wanted you to have it for your bride. Ethan opened the box. Simple platinum band with a single round diamond. Elegant. Understated. Nothing like the ostentatious ring Victoria had chosen. He held it out to Olivia. "May I?" She extended her left hand. It trembled. The ring slid on perfectly, like it had been made for her. Olivia stared at it, eyes bright. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It was my grandmother's most treasured possession. She wore it for 53 years. Olivia's fingers closed around it, and something in her expression crumpled slightly before she controlled it. "I'll take good care of it." "I know you will." Margaret cleared her throat. "Now comes the hard part. You need to make people believe this. That means being seen together. Being affectionate. Telling a consistent story about how you met and fell in love." "We met at a wedding," Olivia said quietly. 3 weeks ago at the Palmer Hutchins reception. I was photographing the event. Ethan noticed me helping the bride with a family situation. We started talking. He asked me to dinner the next week." Ethan looked at her in surprise. She'd already built the story. "We connected over our work," she continued, meeting his eyes. "We both understand legacy. Preservation. Creating something that matters. It felt natural. Easy. Like we'd known each other longer than we had." The words were fiction, but the way she said them made them sound real. Margaret nodded approvingly. "Good. Stick to that. Keep details minimal and emotional. People believe emotions more than facts." They left the office together. Outside, rain misted the Portland streets. Olivia turned to him, pulling her coat tighter. "I should visit my mother. Tell her about us before we announce publicly." "I'll come with you." "Are you sure?" "She'll ask questions. Then we practice our story." They drove to a small apartment complex in South Portland. Olivia's mother lived on the second floor. Narrow hallways. Worn carpet. The smell of someone's cooking mixing with antiseptic. Olivia knocked softly before opening the door with her key. "Mom? It's me." The apartment was tiny but immaculate. A woman in her 60s sat in a recliner near the window, oxygen tube in her nose, knitting project in her lap. She looked up, and her face lit with a smile that physically resembled Olivia's. "Sweetheart. I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow." Then she saw Ethan, and her eyebrows rose. "Oh. You brought someone." Olivia moved to her mother's side, kissing her cheek. "Mom, this is Ethan Whitmore." "Ethan, this is my mother, Carol Bennett." Ethan shook Carol's hand gently. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Bennett." Carol studied him with sharp eyes. "Whitmore? As in the Whitmore Inn?" "Yes, ma'am. Olivia's photographed several weddings there. She always says it's the most beautiful venue on the coast." Carol looked between them, clearly connecting dots. "Is this business or it's not business, Mom?" Olivia sat on the arm of the recliner, and Ethan saw her take a steadying breath. "Ethan and I are engaged." Silence dropped. Carol's knitting fell from her lap. "What?" Olivia held up her left hand, showing the ring. "We met 3 weeks ago," Ethan said, stepping forward. "I know this seems fast, but when you know, you know." Carol stared at them both. 3 weeks. "I know it sounds crazy," Olivia said quietly. "But it's real, Mom. He's kind. He treats me well. And I love him." The lie came out so smoothly that Ethan almost believed it himself. Carol's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, sweetheart. Are you upset?" "Upset? I'm shocked." But Carol reached for Olivia's hand, studying the ring. "If you're happy, then I'm happy. Lord knows you deserve some joy after everything you've done for me." Guilt flashed across Olivia's face. "Mom. I mean it. You've put your life on hold taking care of me. If this man makes you smile, then I'm grateful." Carol looked at Ethan. "You'll take good care of her?" "I will," Ethan promised, and meant it in the only way he could. He would protect her throughout this arrangement. Keep her safe. Honor their agreement. If that wasn't the same as love, it was the best he could offer. Carol smiled through tears. "Then welcome to the family, Ethan." They stayed for another hour, drinking tea and inventing their love story for Carol's benefit. Olivia was brilliant at it, weaving truth and fiction together until even Ethan started to believe they'd fallen for each other over dinner conversations and walks along the coast. When they finally left, Olivia was quiet in the car. "You're good at lying," Ethan said carefully. "I'm good at storytelling. There's a difference." "Is there?" She looked at him, eyes tired. "I tell stories with photographs. I find the truth in moments and capture them. What we're doing isn't finding truth. It's creating an illusion." "Does that bother you? Lying to my dying mother?" "Yes. It bothers me immensely." Her voice cracked. "But $75,000 pays for treatment that might give her another 2 years. So I'll lie. I'll smile. I'll wear your grandmother's ring and pretend I'm the luckiest woman alive." "Olivia, just take me home, please." He drove her back to her small studio apartment in silence. When he pulled up outside, she didn't move immediately. "Thank you for coming with me," she said quietly. "It would have been harder alone. We're in this together now." She looked at the ring on her finger. "For 6 months. For 6 months." She got out of the car without another word, and Ethan watched her disappear into her building. Then he drove back to the lighthouse cottage and tried not to think about the way she'd said, "I love him," to her mother with her eyes bright and voice breaking. Like the lie cost her something essential. He understood that feeling better than she knew. 2 weeks later, Ethan stood in the lighthouse cottage wearing a dark gray suit. Outside, fog wrapped everything in quiet white. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock. Small gathering. Margaret as witness. Carol Bennett, a justice of the peace. No family beyond that. Ethan had told his cousins and the board members that he wanted something private and meaningful, not a production. They'd been suspicious but hadn't argued. The cottage door opened. Margaret entered, followed by the justice of the peace. "The bride is ready," Margaret said. Ethan's hands were shaking. He shoved them in his pockets. This was it. The point of no return. The door opened again, and Olivia stepped inside. She wore an ivory silk dress. Simple, elegant, nothing ornate. Her dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. She'd done her makeup carefully, bringing out her hazel eyes. She was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. Carol stood behind her, leaning on a cane, smiling through tears. Olivia's eyes met Ethan's, and he saw panic there. Raw, desperate panic. He crossed to her, held out his hand. She took it. Her fingers were ice cold. The justice of the peace began speaking. Standard civil ceremony. Simple vows. Nothing personal. Ethan barely heard the words. He was too focused on Olivia's hand trembling in his, the way she kept swallowing like she might be sick, the tears gathering in her eyes that she was fighting desperately to contain. "Do you, Ethan Whitmore, take Olivia Bennett to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was steady. Practiced. The lie of a man who'd learned to perform. "And do you, Olivia Bennett, take Ethan Whitmore to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Olivia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The silence stretched. Margaret shifted. Carol looked concerned. Then Olivia whispered, "I do." The words were barely audible. "By the power vested in me by the state of Maine, I now pronounce you husband and wife." It was done. They were married. Ethan lifted Olivia's hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. The gesture felt too intimate for what this was, but appearances mattered. Carol was crying openly now. Margaret looked relieved. The justice of the peace smiled. Olivia pulled her hand away the second Carol looked down to find a tissue. They signed the marriage certificate. Made small talk. Drank champagne Carol had insisted on bringing. Through it all, Olivia's smile never reached her eyes. An hour later, everyone had gone home. Just Ethan and Olivia remained in the cottage, standing on opposite sides of the room like strangers. "That's it, then," Olivia said quietly. "We're married." "Legally, yes." She looked around the cottage. "Where do I sleep?" "The bedroom upstairs." "I'll take the couch down here." "This is your home." "I can take the couch." "You're my wife. You get the bedroom." The word wife hung between them like something fragile. Olivia nodded slowly. "Okay. I'll get my things from the car." "I'll help." They carried her 2 suitcases upstairs in silence. The bedroom was simple. Large bed. Stone walls. Windows overlooking the ocean. Olivia set her suitcase down, looked around, and her composure finally cracked. I need a minute, she whispered. Of course. Ethan left, closing the door behind him. Downstairs, he poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey and stood at the window watching fog roll across black water. Upstairs, he heard the bedroom door lock. Then, faint but unmistakable, he heard Olivia crying. Quiet. Controlled. Like she was trying desperately not to be heard. But the cottage had thin walls. Ethan downed the whiskey and poured another. 6 months suddenly felt like a lifetime. The first week was excruciating. They moved around each other like ghosts, barely speaking beyond necessary pleasantries. Olivia spent most of her time working, photographing weddings across New England and returning to the cottage late at night. Ethan managed the inn, attended board meetings, and avoided thinking about the woman sleeping in his bedroom. But they had to make appearances. Margaret insisted. "You're newlyweds," she said during a tense meeting in Ethan's office. "You need to be seen together. Dining. Walking. Looking happy. The board is watching." So they started having dinner together at the inn's restaurant twice a week. Ethan would reach across the table and take Olivia's hand. She would smile at him like he'd said something charming. They would talk about work, the weather, anything neutral. To anyone watching, they looked content. In reality, they were 2 skilled performers pretending intimacy neither felt. But something started shifting. Olivia began leaving coffee for him in the mornings before she left for shoots. Just a full pot and a clean mug, nothing elaborate. But it was thoughtful in a way he hadn't experienced in years. Ethan started keeping the cottage warmer because he'd noticed she was always cold when she came home late. He'd leave a blanket on the couch and make sure the fireplace was lit. Small gestures. Practical kindness. Nothing romantic. But it felt like something. 3 weeks into the marriage, Ethan came home late from a board meeting to find Olivia in the cottage kitchen making tea. She wore flannel pajama pants and an oversized sweater, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked exhausted. "Bad day?" he asked. She nodded. "Difficult bride. 7-hour shoot. I'm running on fumes." "Have you eaten?" "Not since breakfast." Ethan moved to the refrigerator. "I'll make something." "You don't have to do that. We're married. Let me feed you." She smiled slightly, the first genuine smile he'd seen in weeks. "Okay." He made scrambled eggs and toast. Simple. Fast. They ate at the small kitchen table, and for the first time, the silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. "Can I ask you something?" Olivia said quietly. "Of course." "Do you regret this? Marrying me?" Ethan set down his fork, considering carefully. "I regret that it's necessary. But I don't regret choosing you." "Why?" "Because you're kind. Honest. You keep your word. Those aren't common qualities. I'm lying to everyone I know. You're fulfilling a contract. That's not the same thing." "Feels the same." He understood that better than he could say. Olivia finished her tea, studying him over the rim of the cup. "Why did she leave you?" "Victoria?" The question caught him off guard. "Excuse me? I looked you up. After you proposed this arrangement. There were articles about your wedding that never happened. Victoria Ashford left you at the altar. The article said she claimed you were emotionally unavailable." "I was." "Were you in love with her?" "I thought I was. But looking back, I was in love with the idea of her. Beautiful. Sophisticated. Connected. She fit the role of the wife I was supposed to have. And when she left? She told me I was marrying her for appearances, not love. She was right. So she left me for someone who could actually feel." Olivia's expression softened. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She did me a favor. I learned that marriage based on performance doesn't work. And yet here we are. Performing. True. But at least we're honest about it." She laughed, sharp and sad. "Is that better or worse?" "I don't know." They finished eating in silence. When Olivia stood to clear the dishes, Ethan reached out and caught her wrist gently. "Thank you," he said. "For doing this. I know it costs you." She looked at his hand on her wrist, then at his face. "It costs us both." "Yes. But you're paying a higher price. $75,000 helps. Money doesn't fix lying to your mother." Her eyes filled with tears. She pulled away, turned to the sink. No, it doesn't. Ethan left her to clean up, giving her privacy for whatever she needed to feel. Upstairs in the bedroom, he heard the lock click. But later that night, he also heard her unlock it. Progress, he thought. Small, fragile, but progress. A month into the marriage, Victoria appeared. Ethan was reviewing event contracts in his office when his assistant knocked. "There's someone here to see you. She says it's personal." "Who?" His assistant's expression turned uncomfortable. "Victoria Ashford." Everything in Ethan went cold. "Tell her I'm busy." "She said she'll wait. She's in the lobby." Ethan closed his eyes, jaw tight. 5 years. 5 years of carefully avoiding any situation where he might run into her. And now she showed up at his office unannounced. Fine. Send her in. Victoria entered like she owned the space. She'd always had that quality. Tall, blonde, impeccably dressed. She wore a cream suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. "Ethan." She smiled like they were old friends. "You look well. What do you want, Victoria? I heard you got married. Congratulations." "Thank you. Quite sudden, wasn't it? One day you're the eternal bachelor, the next you're married to." She checked her phone. "Olivia Bennett. A photographer." "Yes. What's your point?" Victoria sat without being invited, crossing her legs elegantly. "No point. I'm just surprised. You swore you'd never marry after I left." "Plans change." Clearly. She studied him carefully. "I also heard about your grandfather's will. The marriage clause. That timing is interesting." Ethan's hands curled into fists under the desk. "Get out. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to offer help." "I don't need your help." "You might. Word is spreading that your marriage is convenient. People are asking questions. If the board suspects fraud, they could contest the will." "Let them try." Victoria leaned forward. "Or you could avoid the mess entirely. Divorce the photographer. Marry me instead. We could make it real this time. I've grown up, Ethan. I understand what I threw away." He stared at her in disbelief. "You're not serious." "I am. We were good together once. We could be again. You left me at the altar and told 200 people I was incapable of love. I was young and stupid. I'm apologizing. 5 years too late. Better late than never." Ethan stood. "I'm married. Happily. To someone who treats me with respect and kindness. Even if it were possible to undo that, which it's not, I wouldn't choose you. Ever. Now leave my office before I have security remove you." Victoria's expression hardened. "You'll regret this." "I already regret giving you any of my time. Don't come back." She stood, smoothing her suit. "We'll see how long this little arrangement lasts." She left, heels clicking on hardwood. Ethan sank into his chair, heart pounding. His phone buzzed. Text from Margaret. "Victoria Ashford was just seen entering your office. Be careful." Too late. That evening, Ethan told Olivia everything. They sat in the cottage living room, fire crackling, while he explained Victoria's visit and her thinly veiled threats. Olivia listened quietly, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "She'll try to prove our marriage is fake," Olivia said when he finished. "Probably. We need to be more convincing." "I know." Olivia set down her tea. "What would a real married couple do? In public? Be affectionate. Comfortable. Show genuine connection. Then that's what we do. Can you do that? Knowing it's pretend?" She met his eyes. "Can you?" They looked at each other across the space between them. A month of careful distance. Polite coexistence. Nothing more. "We'll have to try," Ethan said quietly. "When's the next public event?" "The Inn is hosting a charity gala next weekend. Black tie. 200 guests. Victoria will definitely attend. She's on the planning committee." "Perfect. We'll show everyone exactly what she wants to see." "Which is?" "A couple in love." The words hung between them. "Olivia, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm volunteering. We have a contract. This is part of it." But something in her voice suggested it was more than that. Pride, maybe. Or the same stubborn determination he'd seen when she helped that bride 3 weeks ago. Okay, he agreed. We'll make them believe it. She nodded, picked up her tea, and headed upstairs. At the landing, she paused. Ethan? Yes? Victoria was wrong. You're not incapable of love. You're just careful about who deserves it. She disappeared into the bedroom before he could respond. Ethan sat in the silence, staring at the fire, and wondered when Olivia Bennet had started seeing through him. And why that terrified him more than losing the inn ever had. The charity gala arrived too quickly. Olivia spent the afternoon getting ready in the bedroom while Ethan dressed downstairs. When she finally descended the stairs, he froze. She wore a floor-length navy gown, simple and elegant, that brought out her eyes. Her hair was swept up, revealing the curve of her neck. His grandmother's ring caught the light. You look beautiful, he said, and meant it. Thank you. You clean up well yourself. He wore a black tuxedo, nothing elaborate. But the way she looked at him made him stand a little straighter. Ready? He asked. No. But let's go anyway. They drove to the inn in comfortable silence. When they arrived, the grand ballroom was already filling with guests. Crystal chandeliers. String quartet. Champagne on silver trays. Victoria stood near the entrance in a red dress that demanded attention. When she saw Ethan and Olivia, her smile sharpened. Here we go, Olivia murmured. Ethan took her hand. Not for show. For support. Together. Together. They entered the ballroom, and immediately people turned to look. Ethan felt the weight of speculation and curiosity. He guided Olivia to the center of the room, one hand on her lower back. The gesture was possessive in a way he hadn't intended, but she leaned into it slightly, and they moved as one. There are a lot of people staring, she whispered. Let them. He introduced her to board members, family friends, business associates. Olivia was gracious and warm, answering questions about their whirlwind romance with the same story they'd practiced. She laughed at appropriate moments, touched his arm naturally, smiled at him like he'd hung the stars. It was a performance. But it felt real. Halfway through the evening, Victoria appeared at their table. Olivia, she said, voice honey sweet. I've been dying to meet you. I'm Victoria Ashford. Olivia stood, extending her hand. It's lovely to meet you. Ethan's mentioned you. Has he? How kind. Victoria's smile never wavered. You're a photographer, correct? Yes. How wonderful. Such a creative profession. And you met at one of Ethan's weddings? I was working a reception here. Ethan was kind enough to notice me. Oh, I'm sure he noticed you. Victoria's tone implied something less than complimentary. Ethan always had excellent taste in beautiful things. The insult was subtle but clear, reducing Olivia to an object. A possession. Ethan's jaw tightened. But Olivia just smiled. Thank you. And he has excellent character, which matters more than taste. Victoria's expression flickered. Of course. Character. How important. Excuse us, Ethan said, taking Olivia's hand. I promised my wife a dance. He led Olivia to the dance floor before Victoria could respond. The quartet was playing something slow and classical. Ethan pulled Olivia close, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers. Are you all right? He asked quietly. She's worse than I expected. I'm sorry. Don't be. I knew what I was signing up for. They swayed together, and Ethan realized this was the closest they'd been since the wedding. He could smell her perfume. Feel the warmth of her through the thin fabric of her dress. You handled her perfectly, he said. She's trying to prove we're not real. Every question is a test. Then we'll pass every test. Olivia looked up at him, eyes serious. She still loves you. In her own terrible way. No. She loves what I represent. Status. Money. Security. That's not love. What is love, then? The question caught him off guard. I don't know. Seeing someone for who they are and choosing them anyway. That's terrifying. Yes, it is. They finished the dance in silence. When the song ended, Ethan led Olivia off the floor, but he didn't let go of her hand. For the rest of the evening, they stayed close. Touching. Smiling. playing the role of newlyweds perfectly. But somewhere in the performance, something shifted. When Olivia laughed at something he said, it sounded genuine. When he brushed a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingered. When their eyes met across the room, neither looked away immediately. The line between pretend and real was blurring. And that was more dangerous than either of them had anticipated. 2 months into the marriage, Olivia's mother took a turn for the worse. The call came at 3 in the morning. Olivia's phone buzzing on the nightstand upstairs. Ethan was asleep on the couch when he heard her running down the stairs. "What's wrong?" "It's my mom. The hospital called. She's struggling to breathe. I need to go." She was already grabbing her keys, hands shaking so badly she dropped them. Ethan caught them. "I'll drive." "You don't have to," but he repeated firmly. "I'm driving." They made it to the hospital in 20 minutes. Carol was in the ICU, oxygen mask on, looking small and fragile in the hospital bed. Her breathing was labored, each inhale a visible struggle. Olivia sat beside her, holding her hand. "Mom, I'm here." Carol's eyes opened slightly. She tried to speak but couldn't through the mask. "Don't talk," Olivia whispered. "Just rest." They sat like that for an hour. Doctors came and went. Adjusted medications. Monitored vitals. Spoke in careful, measured tones that meant nothing good. Ethan stood in the corner, feeling helpless. Finally, Carol's breathing stabilized. The doctor said she could remove the mask for brief periods. Carol looked at Olivia with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Don't apologize. You're going to be fine." "We both know I'm not." "Mom. It's okay. I've had a good life. And I got to see you happy before I go. That's all I wanted." Olivia's face crumpled. "Don't talk like that." Carol reached for Ethan. He crossed to the bed, took her other hand. "Take care of her," Carol whispered. "She gives everything to everyone else. Make sure someone takes care of her." "I will," Ethan promised, throat tight. Carol smiled. "I knew you would. You're a good man. I could see it the first time we met." Guilt crashed through him. This woman was dying believing her daughter had found love, when the truth was an arrangement born of desperation. But Carol looked so peaceful. So happy. Maybe the lie was kinder than the truth. Carol fell asleep shortly after. The doctors said she'd stabilized but needed to stay for observation. Olivia refused to leave. She sat in the chair beside her mother's bed, holding her hand, staring at the monitors like willpower alone could keep them steady. Ethan brought her coffee from the cafeteria. A sandwich she didn't eat. A blanket when she started shivering. At dawn, she finally spoke. "You should go. You have work." "I'm staying." "Ethan. I'm your husband. This is where I belong." The word husband made her eyes fill with tears. "This isn't real," she whispered. "You don't have to pretend when it's just us." "I'm not pretending." She looked at him, confusion and exhaustion mixing in her expression. "Your mother asked me to take care of you," Ethan continued quietly. "That's not part of our contract. That's not about money or appearances. That's me choosing to be here because you shouldn't face this alone." "Why?" "Because you're kind. And brave. And you deserve someone in your corner." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Let you be kind to me. Accept help. Trust that you mean it. Then don't trust it. Just let it happen." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she leaned against his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her, holding her while she cried silently. Outside the window, morning light touched the city. Inside room 347, two people who'd agreed to pretend sat together in the truth of shared grief. And somewhere in that moment, the contract between them stopped being the only thing holding them together. Carol recovered enough to return home, but the incident shook Olivia. She became quieter, more withdrawn. She worked constantly, barely sleeping, throwing herself into photography like it could outrun her fear. Ethan watched her unravel and didn't know how to help. 3 months into the marriage, he found her in the cottage at midnight, sitting on the floor in front of the fireplace, surrounded by photographs. "What are you doing?" he asked gently. "Editing. This couple wants their gallery by tomorrow." "It's midnight." "I know." He sat beside her, looking at the images spread across the floor. A wedding. The bride and groom laughing, dancing, kissing. Every photo radiated joy. "You're good at this," he said. "I'm good at capturing what I can't have." The words hung heavy between them. "Olivia, I spend every weekend photographing love. Real love. And then I come home to this. To us. To a contract and separate bedrooms and a lie I tell so often I almost believe it." She looked at him, eyes red. "I'm so tired, Ethan." "I know. Do you? Because you seem fine. You go to work. You smile at board meetings. You hold my hand at dinners and kiss my forehead for appearances, and it doesn't seem to cost you anything. You think this doesn't cost me? I think you're better at performing than I am." He wanted to argue. To explain that every time he touched her, it got harder to remember why they couldn't be real. That watching her care for her mother and work herself to exhaustion and still find kindness for everyone else made him feel things he'd sworn he couldn't feel anymore. But that wasn't part of their agreement. So he said nothing. Olivia gathered the photographs, hands shaking. "I should finish these. Get some sleep. I'll edit them." "You don't know how to edit photos." "Then teach me." She laughed bitterly. "Why? So you can add helpful husband to your performance?" "No. So you can rest for one night without carrying everything alone." Something in her expression cracked. "I don't know how to let you help me." "Start small. Give me the photos. Tell me what you need. Let me sit here while you sleep." She stared at him like he was speaking another language. Then, slowly, she handed him a memory card. The folder labeled ceremony. "I need you to select the 20 best images. Look for emotion in the faces. Genuine moments." "I can do that. And don't let me sleep past 6. I have a morning shoot." "Okay." She stood, wavering slightly with exhaustion. "Thank you." "You're welcome." She started toward the stairs, then paused. "Ethan?" "Yes?" "This would be easier if I didn't like you." She disappeared upstairs before he could respond. Ethan sat in the silence, memory card in his hand, and tried not to think about what it meant that she liked him. Or that he'd started looking forward to coming home to her. Or that separate bedrooms felt less like protection and more like punishment. 3 more months. He could survive 3 more months without crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. Probably. 4 months into the marriage, the board threw them an anniversary celebration. Intimate dinner at the inn's finest restaurant. 30 guests. Champagne toasts. Speeches about love and partnership. Ethan and Olivia sat at the head table, holding hands, smiling, performing. But when Victoria stood to give a toast, the performance got harder. To Ethan and Olivia, Victoria said, glass raised. "May your love be as genuine as it appears." The words were poison wrapped in silk. Olivia's hand tightened on Ethan's under the table. He stood, pulling Olivia up with him. "Thank you all for celebrating with us. But if you'll excuse us, I'd like to dance with my wife." He led Olivia to the small dance floor. The quartet started playing something slow. "She's not going to stop," Olivia whispered. "I know. She's going to prove we're fake. Let her try." They swayed together, and Ethan pulled her closer than necessary. Her head rested against his shoulder. He could feel her heartbeat through the thin fabric of her dress. "I'm sorry you're dealing with this," he said quietly. "It's not your fault." "It is. I brought you into this mess. I agreed to come. For money. For my mother." She pulled back slightly, meeting his eyes. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. Money is just numbers. My mother is everything. I'd do anything for her. Even this." "Even lie?" "Even lie." He understood that. More than she knew. The song ended, but neither of them moved to separate. Victoria was watching from across the room, expression calculating. "She's staring," Olivia murmured. "Then let's give her something to see." Before he could second-guess himself, Ethan cupped Olivia's face and kissed her. For appearances. For Victoria. For the dozen guests pretending not to watch. That was what he told himself. But the moment his lips touched hers, everything else disappeared. She was soft. Warm. Real. She made a small sound of surprise, then her hands slid up his chest to his shoulders. The kiss deepened. Not aggressive. Just present. Honest in a way nothing between them had been since this started. When they finally pulled apart, Olivia's eyes were wide, face flushed. That was for show, he said quietly. Right. For show. But neither of them looked away. And when they returned to the table, their hands stayed intertwined. Victoria left the party shortly after, expression tight with fury. Ethan counted it as a victory. He didn't count the cost of kissing Olivia and discovering he wanted to do it again. That realization came later, when he was alone in the dark, staring at the ceiling and trying not to think about how her lips had tasted like champagne and something sweeter he couldn't name. 2 more months. He just needed to survive 2 more months without falling for his wife. But he was starting to suspect it was already too late. Month 5 arrived with winter storms and a phone call that changed everything. Ethan was in his office when Margaret appeared, expression grim. We have a problem. What now? The board's legal team found a clause in your grandfather's will. An addendum. Buried in the estate documents. Ethan's stomach dropped. What kind of clause? Margaret handed him a legal document. The marriage must be consummated. It's archaic language from an old Maine statute your grandfather's lawyer included as a safeguard against fraud. Ethan read the document twice, hoping he'd misunderstood. He hadn't. This can't be enforceable. It is. I checked with 3 different attorneys. The statute is still valid. And your grandfather's will explicitly references it. So our marriage isn't legal unless he couldn't finish the sentence. Unless you consummate it. Yes. And the board knows. Victoria's been digging through estate records. She found it and brought it to their attention. Rage flooded through him. Of course she did. You have 2 weeks. Either you fulfill the requirement, or the board can contest the marriage's validity and force a sale. This is insane. This is the law. I'm sorry, Ethan. She left him alone with the document. Ethan sat in silence, mind racing. He had to tell Olivia. But how did he explain that their contract now required physical intimacy neither of them had agreed to? She would leave. Walk away. He didn't blame her. He'd lose the inn. Lose his grandfather's legacy. Lose everything. But more than that, he'd lose her. And somewhere in the last 5 months, that had started to matter more than the rest. That evening, he told her. They sat in the cottage, fire burning low, while he explained the situation. Olivia listened without interrupting. When he finished, she stood and walked to the window. So we have sex or you lose everything, she said flatly. Yes. And this wasn't in the original contract. No. I didn't know about it. I swear. She nodded slowly. I believe you. I won't force this. If you want to leave, I understand. I'll still pay you the full amount. The $75,000 up front was for this exact situation. And you'll lose the inn. Yes. Your grandfather's legacy. Yes. She turned to face him. What do you want me to do? I want you to choose what's right for you. Not for me. Not for the money. For you. Olivia stared at him for a long moment. I need time to think. Of course. She went upstairs. The bedroom door didn't lock this time, but Ethan heard her crying anyway. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. The next morning, Olivia's car was gone when he woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen table. I went to my mother's. I need to think. Don't follow me. Please. Ethan crumpled the note in his fist and tried not to think about how empty the cottage felt without her. 3 days passed. Olivia didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't answer when he reached out. Ethan went through the motions. Work. Meetings. Pretending everything was fine. But he was unraveling. On the 4th day, Margaret called. The board wants an answer. Do you have one? No, Ethan, you have 10 days left. I know. Where's Olivia? She left. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. Me too. He hung up and stared at his phone, willing it to ring. It didn't. That evening, he drove to Carol's apartment. He didn't know what he'd say. Just that he needed to see if Olivia was all right. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Olivia, it's me. I'm not here to pressure you. I just want to know you're okay. The door opened. But it wasn't Olivia. It was Carol, looking friendlier than he remembered. She's not here, Carol said. Do you know where she is? She's staying with a friend. She needed space. From me? Carol studied him carefully. What happened? We had a disagreement. About? Something personal. Carol stepped back, gesturing him inside. Sit. Talk to me. He shouldn't. This wasn't Carol's problem. But he was so tired of carrying everything alone. He sat. Carol made tea. And Ethan found himself explaining everything. The contract. The clause. The impossible choice. Carol listened without judgment. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Do you love her? Carol finally asked. The question struck him like a physical blow. He didn't know how to answer. It's complicated. It's not. Do you love my daughter? We have an arrangement. That's all. That's not what I asked. Ethan looked at this dying woman who believed her daughter had found happiness, and he couldn't lie to her anymore. Yes, he whispered. I love her. But she doesn't love me. This was always temporary. A business arrangement. I was a fool to forget that. Carol smiled sadly. You're a fool for a different reason. What do you mean? My daughter doesn't do anything halfway. When she commits completely. She agreed to marry you for money. But she stayed because of you. That's not true. Have you asked her? She left. That's answer enough. Carol shook her head. She left because she's terrified. She spent 5 months falling in love with you while pretending it's all pretend. And now you're asking her to cross a line that makes it real. That's terrifying. Ethan's heart was pounding. She doesn't love me. Doesn't she? The girl who leaves you coffee every morning? Who laughs at your terrible jokes? Who holds your hand even when no one's watching? That sounds like love to me. Or habit. Ask her. She won't talk to me. Carol pulled out her phone, typed something, and hit send. 30 seconds later, Olivia walked through the door. She froze when she saw Ethan. Mom, what? Sit down, sweetheart. We need to talk. Olivia looked between them, clearly confused. But she sat. Carol stood, moving slowly toward the bedroom. I'm going to lie down. You two work this out. She left them alone. The silence was deafening. I'm sorry, Ethan said finally. I shouldn't have come here. Your mother called you. She texted me you were here. I'll go. Don't. He looked at her. She looked exhausted. Beautiful. Broken. I don't know what to do, Olivia whispered. I agreed to pretend. I agreed to smile and hold your hand and let people believe we're in love. But this, she gestured helplessly. This isn't pretend anymore. I know. If we do this, it's real. It changes everything. So we don't do it. I'll lose the inn. It's just a building. It's your grandfather's legacy. You matter more. She stared at him, eyes filling with tears. Don't say things like that. Why not? Because I'm already in love with you, and it's destroying me. The words hung in the air between them. Ethan couldn't breathe. What? I fell in love with you. Somewhere between the coffee and the hospital and the way you hold me when we dance. I fell in love with you, and I hate it because we have an end date. 6 months. Then we're done. And I don't know how to survive loving you and losing you. He crossed to her in 3 steps, cupped her face in his hands. You're not losing me. The contract, she started. I don't want the contract. I want you. Not for 6 months. Forever. Not because I have to. Because I choose to. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You don't mean that. I do. I love you, Olivia. I've been falling in love with you since the day you helped that bride and I saw who you really are. Kind. Brave. Real. Everything I didn't know I needed. We were supposed to be pretending. I know. But I can't pretend anymore. I love you. And if you want to walk away, I'll let you go. But if there's any part of you that wants this to be real, then stay. Please. She looked at him through tears, searching his face for lies. She wouldn't find any. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. What if we're wrong? Then we're wrong together. She laughed, broken and beautiful. That's a terrible plan. It's the only one I have. Olivia pulled his hands from her face, held them between them. If we do this, it's not because of the clause or the inn or the money. It's because we choose it. Agreed. And separate bedrooms are over. Agreed. And you're stuck with me. For real. No contract. No end date. I wouldn't want it any other way. She smiled, and it was the first completely honest smile he'd seen from her since this began. Okay, she whispered. Let's be real. He kissed her. Soft and slow and full of every emotion he'd been holding back for 5 months. When they pulled apart, she was still crying. But she was also laughing. We're idiots, she said. Complete idiots. I love you. I love you too. They stayed like that, forehead to forehead, until Carol called from the bedroom that she was very happy for them, but could they please go home now so she could sleep. They left together, hands intertwined. And for the first time since this arrangement began, the future felt like something to look forward to instead of an ending to survive. 1 month later, Ethan stood in the lighthouse cottage watching Olivia photograph the sunset through the windows. She'd been doing that more lately. Capturing moments. Building a portfolio of their life together. Real life. Not performance. The board had accepted the marriage as valid. Victoria had disappeared from their lives. The inn was secure. But none of that mattered as much as this. Olivia. Here. His. She turned from the window, camera in hand, and smiled at him. What? She asked. Nothing. I'm just happy. Sappy. That too. She crossed to him, wrapped her arms around his waist. He pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. I got a call today, she said. From a gallery in Portland. They want to show my work. That's incredible. It's because of you. You encouraged me to submit. It's because of your talent. Still. Thank you. He kissed the top of her head. You're welcome. They stood like that, watching the lighthouse beams sweep across darkening water. Do you ever regret it? Olivia asked quietly. How we started? No. Do you? Sometimes I wish it had been real from the beginning. But then I think maybe we needed the pretend to figure out what real looks like. That's very philosophical. I'm full of wisdom. You're full of something. She laughed and smacked his chest lightly. Rude. True. She looked up at him, eyes soft. I love you. I love you too. For real this time. It was always real. We just didn't know it yet. She smiled and pulled him down for a kiss. Outside, winter wind howled across the rocks. Inside, 2 people who'd agreed to pretend had discovered something genuine in the spaces between performance and truth. And 6 months had turned into forever. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. If you made it all the way to the end, please subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. I'd love to hear from you. On a scale of 0 to 10, how did this story make you feel? Drop your rating in the comments, I'll read every single one. I'm truly grateful you're here. See you in the next story.